Hey guys, and welcome to the STiKS EU. We're back here again after quite an eventful weekend of esports in the UK and in Europe. I'm here joined by my esteemed co-host, as per usual, Tommy_esports, and we're here with a familiar face. It's actually the first guest, I believe, to make a reappearance. I must be doing something right. That's Joel. Going some introductions real quickly. Tommy, why don't you introduce yourself? Joel, why don't you introduce yourself for those who don't know who you are?
Good evening, everyone. My name's Tommy. Do a bit of work on esports side of things on YouTube and etc. etc. You know, meant to be co-hosting this. You know, we do a good job. You know, my co-host sadly wasn't at Gfinity at the weekend because sadly he's not the right age for the actual event because they've sadly put a cap on it so no children are there. But you know, I'm here to give my best knowledge of the event because I was able to spectate it because I'm actually the right age.
Hi guys, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name's Joel. I'm the managing director, new job title, since we incorporated of XL Esports. I want to thank you guys for letting me come back on the show. Compose yourself, Alex.
I'm all right, I promise. Guys, if you don't know who I am, I'm apparently not a good enough caster.
Underage.
Also known as Alex. I cast, I present, and I cry when I don't get invited to events. But yeah, that's not what we're here to talk about because I could probably cry for another hour or so. But yeah, we actually want to talk about the Gfinity event. You kind of mentioned that before about how, you know, I wasn't there. But yeah, Joel, you was there. What was it like? Obviously, it's the first time I believe you actually been to the Gfinity arena. What was that like as an experience? Obviously, it's in a theatre. How was it?
Yeah, it was very, very, very good. Obviously, the event was split over 2 days. The first day wasn't actually at the arena. It was in kind of like a conference centre. A similar setup to Classic Lands. You know, they had different stations, games going on a couple of feet away from each other. And then obviously Championship Sunday was at the arena itself in the View Cinema in Fulham Broadway. Incredible. Really recommend going. I was actually surprised that more people didn't go. I don't know if that was just because they left it quite late to make the tickets free or, you know, the age restriction as well. But it really, really is an incredible idea to put an esports event in a cinema. Like, it's genius. And it works really, really well.
Yeah, I definitely think it's, I guess, a good atmosphere. I mean, I was speaking to Stealth yesterday and he actually got to cast that and he was talking about how the atmosphere of just the event in general. Rage, stop crying, all right? Just because you're underage, okay? Calm down. I was speaking to him and he was saying how the atmosphere was really good, and he actually gave a shout out to you, Joe, and your organization, you know, making, you know, the woos and the the chants flowing all weekend. So from that instance, it looked really good. You know, the only downside I think of the event was the viewership, but that was mainly because I think there was another event actually going on at the weekend, what was in the form of Gamers Assembly. Now this being, you know, the STiKS EU, we don't want to give, you know, full undivided attention to, you know, Gfinity and to UK events and stuff. We want to, you know, include the European side of things as much as Rage probably doesn't want me to. But basically, yeah, Gamers Assembly took place at the weekend. We had some significantly known team, should we say, what probably is why the viewership for that event was so good. We had Vitality there, we had Millennium there, obviously Gotaga transferring over there. Millennium actually ended up getting to the finals but didn't win, what was a bit of a surprise. A team called EQ or Equinox, if I'm not mistaken, ended up winning it. They came from the losers bracket, ended up winning 2 best of 5s to win the event. They placed first. I think they took home something like €5,000, followed by Millennium, followed by Infamous, then FaZe France. And the event is quite significant as well because the top 2 French teams from the event will actually gain qualification to Meltdown Paris. And then in Meltdown Paris, there'll be 4 teams from 4 French organizations, and only one of them will qualify for ESWC. So the 2 teams that actually did end up qualifying were FaZe France and Infamous, because Millennium already have a spot. Obviously, they got a fan vote into ESWC, and Equinox are actually a Belgium team. So I do believe the 4 teams that you'll see at Meltdown Paris are Hyper Games, who are at Gfinity. You'll then see Infamous, FaZe France, and I can't remember the last team actually. Let me just have a look quickly. I can't actually remember the last team, if I'm going to be honest. So with that all being said, that's pretty much a recap of Meltdown, not Meltdown Paris, Gamers Assembly. As I said, it had about 8K concurrent viewership, what was pretty good, and that's probably why Gfinity's viewership wasn't as good. I think it only peaked around 3,000 for the finals. It wasn't great, but what do you think? What do you two guys think about TCM not being there? Obviously, does it give kind of more incentive for other teams to I guess try out these events, because obviously we all know that TCM and Epsilon are normally the two teams in the finals, but obviously with TCM not being there, do you think it kind of gives more incentive to other teams?
Well, for me, I don't think it would have made a difference to the overall result of the tournament. We saw from regionals that Epsilon, or the Epsilon team, were pretty much the most dominant EU side, and that they proved that again by taking home the gold, as it were. But I mean, it's always a shame when you lose a pro team out of a tournament. I mean, I think it's great that they've gone over there. They could have potentially come back. I don't know financially if that would have been viable. But it was also good just to see some new faces in a final, you know, where really showed up at Champs. They showed up again, you know, taking second at Gfinity and kind of proven that they pretty much are the second best European team right now.
Yeah, I have to really agree. To be honest, just going back to the whole Gamers Assembly thing, one match what I really thought was quite interesting was the whole Vitality Doc, Vitality X, then Millennium situation. Obviously, yeah. Gataga going over. There was quite a bit of rivalry between Broken and Gataga, and obviously Get Some and so on and so forth. All those former players kind of batting out each other. All the big players in France, pretty much head to head, all on different teams, found their way there. So for them all to clash out and really be placed in a situation where both the Vitality teams, I think one got top 6 and one got top 8. So probably not the best, especially from that organization who is probably the most known in France. Obviously, Millennium now has Gataga, so they'll probably overtake them soon. But yeah, obviously, Gataga is such a massive factor. Going back to your question about TCM going over, I feel as if TCM had to do it because it's such a viable financial situation. And obviously, there's so much more opportunities for them. Obviously, X Games around the corner. I also think, like Joel said, it kind of allows some more players to step up to the plate. I mean, we've seen Aware, as Joel said, step out the plate, especially someone like Watson, who, in fairness to him, he really was, you know, last thing I can remember of Watson was him placing top 24. And then, you know, he goes to regionals, he plays phenomenal on this Aware lineup, and now he's one of the top placing players in the World Champs of Europe. So he's really like stepped out his shell since TCM have gone over. And I really feel as if now he's getting a lot more attention, especially with the Storm roster speculation. He's kind of one of the first people considered to be going into that team. Again, I really just have to say TCM kind of deserves it. But as Joel said, I would have expected Epsilon to win it anyway, because I believe they've won every single European LAN event on Advanced Warfare, what they've attended. What is just, it's a mind-blowing statistic for the organization. It's kind of just hammers home the truth that Epsilon are such a dominant force in the Europe. One thing I really want to talk about, though, is moving aside from TCM and Epsilon, Infuse was another one of the top teams going into the tournament who was kind of pipped at least a top 3 position. I mean, we was kind of talking before the show went live. Joel, you said that it was kind of, you were suggesting them to be top 3. I know Tommy was thinking the same. I was thinking the same. They actually placed 6th. So, Tommy, Joel, what's your thoughts on that? I'll start off with Joel first.
I think had it not been for Hyper Games turning up and playing absolutely unbelievably pretty much all weekend, Infuse probably would have got into that top 3 place. I don't know. It would have been between them and Exertus, but yeah, everyone, that was a shock for everyone. You know, that game, it wasn't played on main stage Hyper Games Infused. It was either on Challenger or in the press room, which was kind of their third station on the Sunday. And you just saw all the players disappear, and then you just saw the Infused players kind of trickling in one by one, looking absolutely dejected, and no one really knew the result. You know, it wasn't something that kind of spread, and then you could just see their reactions, and very quickly you realized they were like, hang on, did they lose to Hyper Games? Like I know of Hyper Games from previous tournaments and a lot of the online tournaments, and obviously playing online Gfinities is very different because of the host kind of advantage, but Hyper Games never particularly, you know, they don't win them, they don't go as far. So that was a big shock. Credit to Hyper Games for how they performed, but I know the Infuse guys will have been very disappointed with it. I could see it on their faces, and being from the UK, I obviously wanted them to win that, so it was a real shame.
Yeah, and obviously, Tommy, what's your opinions on the whole infused matter? I know you watched a lot of the stream.
I can only really echo what you said, Joel. I mean, obviously you were there in person, so you got to see kind of their glum faces as they probably came into the arena. And looking at some of their tweets as well, they must have been so gutted because realistically they were predicted to be up there potentially in the grand finals. Obviously, going into it, there was a lot of hype around the Ware because obviously Ware were the best placing EU team from the UK, and mostly it was UK teams at the event. And Infuse were another team, although obviously they didn't place well at Champs, but then you also have to remember their roster at Champs is different to what they actually have now, because obviously Marky B and Reedy are on the lineup whereas they weren't at Champs. So from that point of view, I feel the same. I feel that they should have been at least top three, definitely top four. So for them to place sixth and I think take home like just £250, well, it's not the worst, but realistically for the caliber of players they have on that team, I honestly would have thought that they would have placed higher.
Yeah, I mean, going into it, I mean, if you look at the roster of that Infused team, you'd expect them to do very well. There's a lot of veterans on that team, but apparently he wasn't clicking in whatever way, and it was a little bit surprising to see. Tommy, I believe you've want to talk about this event or whatever what's coming up soon. I believe it's in Belgium or something along that lines. I don't know much about it, so I'm not going to talk and pretend I know much about it. You do it, you sell it to me, and then I'll give my thoughts.
This is Anasend in Amsterdam.
Yeah, it is. Thanks to, I think it's Esports Laws in the chat for linking me the actual teams that will be there. I think hopefully Goalie will have the actual Twitter post on your screen. You can see the teams that will be attending. It's a 5K LAN, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a pretty big event, and you got some pretty known teams there like Millennium, can't even say that word. SE7. You got EQ there. Obviously, they won at Gamers Assembly. That's the team I was talking about. You got a number of German teams, a number of teams, I think, from Holland. So overall, this is going on this weekend. I think this is one of the only LANs in Europe and across the globe that's actually taking place for Call of Duty Esports. So, if you want to check it out, I'm sure we'll leave links to everything. You can go follow Anisend on Twitter. It is basically at Anisend, how you'd spell it. You can see it on your screen, so you can go follow them. Keep up to date. I'm not sure who the last team will be. I'm not sure if it'll be a British team or what it'll be, but from our knowledge, it could be, it couldn't be. I'm not too aware. I mean, you say that I know more than you, but honestly, thanks to Esports Law in the chat for linking me this. But yeah, it should be a pretty awesome event. 5K on the line, pretty big tournament. Who would you say, looking at the teams in that lineup, are going to win it, Joel?
So, I mean, I've known about that LAN for a couple of months because we were actually hoping to attend ourselves until we ended up with a roster for Gfinity, and we kind of prioritized that. But I mean, I was backing SE7 until obviously quite a few bigger teams have kind of announced that they'll be attending. I think you got to look at the EQ lineup. I'd heard rumors of Epsilon attending. It's Twitter rumors. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, without Tommy this time, but I don't know if they'll be heading over there for the 5K or not. But if not, I'm probably going to back EQ with maybe SE7 and Millennium taking sort of second and third respectively.
What would you say, Alex?
To be honest, again, Joel's kind of the smart bet here. EQ, especially if you go off the Gamers Assemble where EQ outplaced Millennium. I feel as if that's probably going to be the final, EQ versus Millennium. So whoever wins that game is obviously going to take it. To talk about the event itself, it's like not the first time a LAN's been attending in Amsterdam, and they go down quite well because it's not too far from the UK, and the geographical positioning of Amsterdam means that you can have teams, too far away. Exactly. You can have teams from the Netherlands, you can have teams from France, you can have teams from Germany. It's a good position. I'm not going to it. A little bit disappointed about that. But yeah, I quite like Amsterdam. I thought I'd be like strolling the streets at night looking at sites. But
You're underage. I'm just going to put it out there. For the sake of you, I'm going to have to get you to get a consent form. Just so save everyone the worry of not knowing where you are. We're going to have to get you to get a consent form.
He's going to end this call, man.
Is he host? Oh dear. What I will say is though, I would really like to see a Millennium EQ final, but then again, got to represent Britain. I really hope SE7 can go far in this tournament. They're one of the favourites, I would say. But, you know, EQ have proven that they're up there as well after they get in their, you know, win over Millennium. And it was in pretty emphatic style as well, because obviously they came from the losers bracket at Gamers Assembly, and they obviously had to win 2 best of 5s, able to do that. Pretty crushing for a team that, you know, gets that on them. So if they do match up, that's going to be some nerves on Millennium's half. But overall, you know, it should be a really good tournament. I'm sure it'll be streamed so we can all check it out. But as I said, yeah, just check out their Twitter for all the information you need to know about that. But I think we're going to swing things back now to Gfinity, if I'm not mistaken.
We can do if you want. And one thing I kind of do want to talk about, I mean, Joel's on the show. Got affiliation. Well, I say affiliations. You are the man behind XL. As I see you there rocking that very, very, very swanky looking hoodie. One thing I want to ask you is obviously, yeah, exactly, the product placement's there. But yeah, it's like, yeah, obviously talking about your team, they attend the Gfinity. Do you want to just, you know, talk about the roster, what attended, talk about the players who went and how did they perform and where did they place?
Yeah, sure. So we had Arjum and Schneps, 2 players from our Amateur Pro lineup, stayed on with us for the event. Obviously, it was 18 plus, so we've made quite a lot of roster changes over the last couple of months, trying to get it right. We brought on Mark, or Sparky, as he's known on Xbox. His first LAN, he was our AR player, played incredibly well, as did Mimis, who some people will know from sort of online MLG tournaments. He's pretty much Gef Kid's right-hand man. We have a good relationship with the Finnish boys, and he came over to play with us as a pickup, and insane, just great gun skill, one of the most intelligent players I've ever had the pleasure to watch. You know, just things he does in Search and Destroy just blew my mind. Like, I think I consider myself an intelligent player, person, whatever, and he's just on another level. You know, I can see what separates these guys when it comes to S&D tournaments. We finished top 12, which was outside where we wanted to place. We wanted to come top 8 at least. But when you consider the 2 teams we lost to in bracket play were Exertus, who finished 3rd, and Hypergames, who finished 4th, you know, whatever. You know, I can take that one on the chin, that placement. We had a great time. It was a great land. Our team was basically a pickup squad. And to be honest, that was kind of the case with a lot of teams there. I know Epiphany placed like top 6, and they were pretty much a pickup team. Barrage, top 8, I believe, consider themselves a pickup team. So I think because of that age restriction, a lot of teams made quite late changes to their rosters. But great event. We would have liked top 8. We'll take top 12 and hopefully keep building on it.
Tommy, did you manage to catch XL again? I was quite busy during the weekend, so I didn't manage much stream. I don't know whether it was actually streamed or not. Do you know anything else?
From what I saw, it wasn't. I mean, I may be wrong, but from what I saw, it was none of it was streamed. But I mean, I can only echo what you said, Joe. I was going to bring up the fact that the only 2 teams you did lose to were, I think, the 3rd and 4th place team. So, I mean, nothing but congrats to your lineup, because honestly, you know, you tried so hard, and you know, at the end of the day, you got a bad bracket in some ways, because looking at it, if you'd maybe been on the other side of the bracket, you may have had a better run and, you know, even got top 6 maybe. So from that standpoint, I think the XL as an organization is progressing well. You know, to think that Am2 Pro was your first event, and now, you know, I think you were top 12 then as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
We were. So, you know, you're consistent, and considering, as you said, it was kind of a pickup team. Obviously, you've had to adapt to the age restrictions, it being 18 plus, and you're right in saying that some other rosters as well were doing the same, because, you know, it is restricting, but, you know, you got to just respect what Gfinity are doing, and, you know, trying to stand the developers' right side. So from that instance, I think XL had like a really good performance, and I'm just bummed that it wasn't streamed, because I mean, I was rooting for you guys, and it's just a shame that it wasn't streamed on the Sunday.
Yeah, it was more. That was my only kind of complaint about the production from the weekend. I actually think Gfinity are amazing with the way that they do it. But being in the losers bracket, which we were from Sunday morning, because we played Exertus kind of at sort of 7 or 8 p.m. on the Saturday night as like our last game in winners bracket round 1. So we knew we were back on Champ Sunday, but it was in the losers bracket, and they didn't stream it. And actually, it was in the Challenger stage, which is essentially a carbon copy of the main stage, but in just another cinema screen, basically. But sort of you're sat there in the room. There was no game sound. So you could see the players in the booth, but there was no game sound. And the screen had the main stage game on. So it was quite weird in that respect. I mean, the main stage was absolutely flawless. I know the stream didn't get that many viewers, pretty much down to the fact it was the same weekend as the European LAN,
exactly.
and also I-54, which would have had some gamers' attentions as well. But yeah, apart from not being on stream and not really getting that kind of exposure to the outside world, if you like, when you're actually at the event, games were almost like back to back. It was really, really well ran. And I just wanted to touch on that because, there was a lot of complaints coming out of recent UK LANs just about how long it took for games to happen. Gfinity they did have less teams. They had like 32 or slightly less than 32.
29, I think, altogether.
But they had half the number of stations on the Saturday that AMTA Pro had. So it was pretty much proportional. And I think the biggest difference was just the amount of admins they had. They were constantly getting teams sat down. You had very strict warm-up times. They had a neutral host. That host would set up the free-for-all, get it going, end it, after 10 minutes, and then it'd be like, right, we're going into the game. And that's what kept it running so smoothly. So big props to Gfinity for the way they did that.
Awesome.
I just want to talk about the production, but before I get into that, Breaking Bond, you are the best. Subhype was all in the chat. Woo, 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 everywhere. 3 months resub. What a legend. I mean, I tell you what, I really do appreciate all the subscribers who subscribe and keep on subscribing. So you are amazing. I love you. I do love you.
Sure.
But yeah, I want to talk about the production as well. Something what I'm quite passionate about. Obviously, given my background in esports. I want to talk about, you mentioned about the viewers and how you got iSeries on at the same event, you had Games Assembled on at the same event. What, in my opinion, isn't very good scheduling. We also had like the new casters who arrived, and obviously Calvin isn't a new caster. He casted previous events before, but he was never really given too much chances in terms of, casting AMTA Pros, casting iSeries. And then obviously you had STiKS as well, who, meh. No, I'm joking. I know Stealth's watching this, so I'm just trying to wind him up. But yeah.
I'm just waiting for that comment. I'm going to shout you out.
But yeah, basically, those two coming over.
Big Stealth fan.
I'm disappointed, Joel. Beef. No, I'm joking. But obviously, Gfinity taking the risk with bringing on these casters who probably aren't the best because, you could have brought Ton over, who is vastly experienced and arguably a lot better than the other two. Do you feel as if, the production maybe making this this risk, so to speak, with having these new casters in, do you feel as if that might have affected this production value and affected the viewer count as well? Tommy, Joel, I'll throw it over to Tommy first. What's your thoughts on the matter?
So we're talking about obviously more like STiKS and Calvin, who are not inexperienced, but, lack as much experience as like the likes of Ton, Rel, Momo, etc. Are we talking about?
What? Big pardon? No, I was just talking about like the production in general. Do you feel as if, the fact that they took that risk on having these casters, as if, from an outside point of view, maybe from an American point of view, if they went into the stream, they saw one of these casters who was maybe obviously not quite as good as the Rel, was quite as good as the Bryce, is quite as good as the Tons. Do you feel as that might have affected the viewership?
I genuinely felt that the overall standard of the casting was pretty superb. There was the odd mistake here and there, but I kind of feel like, you have to be thrown in the deep end to kind of learn. And the fact that I think most of the time, STiKS or Calvin or whoever it was paired with, quite an experienced caster. So they were able to, obviously help them. And you learn off, you learn more, I'd say, doing it that way, because obviously, you can only get as good as, I guess, your competition, if you will. And that's the same with casting. If you're casting with superb casters, then all you're going to do is gain more and more knowledge about how to do different things. They're going to pick up on things and help you improve, because, at the end of the day, no one's trying to be, it's not trying to really be a competition. It isn't in a sense, but, everyone's trying to get better and everyone's trying to help each other in a sense. And I feel like Gfinity giving them a chance is going to be good in the long run, because with them having 18 plus events and not having yourself being able to cast, they're going to have to sometimes rely on other casters. And obviously if one of the more professional casters is ill or whatever, they can't cast, then obviously they're going to be able to step up to the mark. But if they don't give them the chance now, they may regret it in the long run.
Joe, just your thoughts on the production value and obviously the casters in general.
Yeah, I thought in general the casting was pretty good, especially from STiKS, who, I'm glad he got a shot. He really deserves it. He works very hard, and he is a good caster. I think the only time that him and, Calvin struggled was when they were paired together. and I think their first cast of the day, they were thrown in at the deep end as a pair together. I thought maybe they could have let them go with one of the more professional casters like Rel or Momo, just to warm up a little bit, because I actually think as the day went on, and it stealth casted the grand final and did it brilliantly, and I think it helped just having that experience next to him. In general, really good. I would have loved to have seen Bryce cast a little bit more. I know he was kind of head presenter of the show, and he did that role brilliantly, running the analysis table. But just from a fan perspective, I would have liked to have seen him cast. I think he's a great caster.
Yeah, I know. He actually made quite a long comment on the competitive Red Bryce did, talking about how there's a little bit of issue with the production via what meant he was kind of chained down to the presenter role. What probably isn't good, especially considering that he is by far like the most experienced caster there, so you would expect him to be casting the final, as you said. Just to echo what you said, I think it's good experience from people like Stealth to be given the chance to cast with people like Rel, who has been to Rel's been to every single World Championship, so that just sounds how good he is. So I think it's really good that he had that experience, especially casting the grand final as well. It's kind of a lot of nerves on the grand final because you don't want to disappoint, especially Gfinity, what's kind of a prestigious event. So really respect him for that. I mean, Stealth's doing all right for himself. He did have a very good teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to blow my own trumpet, but, he did have a very good teacher. But guys, we're going to actually have a very small break. So fill up your tea, because that's what I'm going to do, because it's empty. Oh, okay, it's just dripped.
Oh dear Lord.
Yeah, we'll go for a break while I clear this up. So we'll see you soon. Hey guys, welcome back. Having a little bit of a disaster down here right now. It's a little bit on fire, but I'm gonna worry you through it. Hopefully you're all good. That was a mistake. Ouch. But while
were you not taught in school, not to touch hot things and pour them on yourself? Yeah,
exactly. Apparently I didn't have that class. But while I try and sort this out, Goddy's going to throw up a very, very fancy graphic of some very, very fancy apparel what you can get your hands on. There's actually a white hoodie, and probably it does look amazing, to be fair. But I think a lot of the eyes is going to be on the blue shirt, what should be on your screen any minute now if Goddy's doing his job. Get it through my ear. He is doing his job, so that's always good. Obviously the shirt what's on the screen now, fantastic for summer if you're here in the UK. It only comes around like once a year, and
once a day
for every year. So when that day arrives, you'll be ready in your STiKS apparel short sleeve shirt. And every other day when it's raining and it's miserable and it's like dull, you've got a white hoodie. So everyone's a winner. Go check them out. There'll be links in the chat. Mods, do that because you're the best. Golly will probably do that because he's amazing. And enjoy. Anyway, moving on from that, because I've kind of fixed this now. I actually frantically off camera, I was like, sort it out. It's all good. I want to talk about iSeries. iSeries, you mentioned it, good job. I'm not really going to talk too much because it wasn't actually a COD event. They cancelled their COD event because it was in direct competition with Gfinity. Probably a smart move on their end, business point of view. Do you feel as if that now is kind of set in stone? They cancelled a event once. Do you feel as if COD is not going to be a thing at iSeries anymore, or do you feel as if it was just a one-off event because of scheduling and they're going to come it back in later course? I'm going to go with Tommy first, then Joel. Yeah.
I have no doubt in saying that they'll be back. I think they even said when they did actually cancel the event that they will be back for I-54. I think that's the next event. It's a shame because obviously looking at some of the videos from iSeries, they got a good amount of people there. It's like the equivalent to I guess like PAX or something, but on like a minuscule scale. But they draw quite a big crowd, and that's obviously good for boosting esports viewership and stuff. Getting people to convention centers for gaming and stuff, and then they're like, oh, what is this esport thing? Seeing Call of Duty there, and that's how they get into it. That's always what we love. So I have no doubt in saying that it should hopefully be back. I don't know. I think the next one's in like August or something, but they were definitely right to cancel this one because obviously, as you said, it conflicted with Gfinity and Gamers Assembly. I mean, what the ideal scenario would be to have something like, all three events over 3 weekend, like one every weekend for 3 weekends, because then obviously you've got a good amount of EU kind of content over a good few weeks, but they haven't done it that way. But I don't think they'll scrap plans for having Call of Duty at their next event.
Joel?
Yeah, just to echo that, I mean, I heard that they were most certainly going to move their COD event to the next one. I think I-55 in like August or sometime like that. I hope from an organisation point of view that it's not one after the other every weekend, purely because...
Oh, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about you as being selfish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
from a spectatorship, maybe that's great. Not so much for us. I'd prefer it if we had kind of one major LAN every month.
Yeah.
So, for example, next month is the Gfinity Masters. Is there another one in June?
There's one in June, what is just before my birthday.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
you
there's
can't
one in
pass
May,
that.
one in June. So, oh dear.
Oh.
And then obviously the next Amateur Pro is July. Pro Asylum is July.
Yeah, it's quite a lot on the way.
I've heard
Land,
rumours. Again, I'm not going to confirm or deny anything, but I have a feeling that Pro Asylum might be changing their date.
Would make sense because it's come a week after Amateur Pro. It's a little bit close together to expect amateur teams to be able to attend both. Obviously, Pro Asylum set their date first, and Amateur Pro just
that was a bit of that was a bit of an aggressive maneuver by Amateur Pro, but.
I mean, if they want to try and get 3 in a year, so it made sense for them to have one kind of at that halfway point. I mean, for me, so from an organization point of view, I don't want them that close together because it's difficult.
Yeah.
But I do want to have all these different companies, essentially competing because it's better for the scene. It gives us more opportunities to compete and to kind of grow the industry, if you like. So. I hope Pro Asylum do move their date, and I hope they don't move it anywhere near I-55.
Tommy, talk about all these events. You're a big fan of a certain French event, so why don't you go talk about that?
God, it's only because Millennium are there. I love Millennium. Fanboying over here. So talking of events, we have a lot of events on the way. I'll come on to talk about ESWC in a minute, but I just wanted to kind of go on to, just talk about Gfinity for a second because Gfinity are really upping their plans this year. What I love to see, I love to see progression and, just everything kind of moving forward at a steady rate and just getting growth in general. And we had the first event, what was the open event? I think, if I'm not mistaken, that some of the teams from the open event qualify for the Spring Masters. I think, I'm not certain on that. But then basically we've got 4 more events. We've got 2 Spring Masters and then we've got 2 Summer Masters as well. The first Spring Masters is going to take place May 8th and through 10th. That's the weekend after ESWC, the $50,000 tournament, I think it is, something like that. Second, huh?
Yeah, that's my birthday.
So hopefully your team wins there.
Yeah.
Good birthday.
Hopefully
in XL, maybe win it for your major.
Second Spring Masters is going to be June 19th through 21st. Then they've got the Summer Masters. The first one will be July 31st through August 2nd. What Rage probably won't even get picked to cast, but oh well. Then second one will be August 28th through 30th. And if I'm not mistaken, they're all going to be like a 25k prize pool, and pro points will be on the line as well. And it's quite significant as well because obviously with LMG announcing their $250,000 World Championships at the end of the year, they have tweeted out saying that your placements from events will factor in to determine which teams will get picked from the EU regional and obviously pro points as well. So you want to be doing well at these tournaments because your placings will be taken into account. It's the first time we've really seen this. I don't think I can recall any other time. So that's what happening with Gfinity. And obviously it should be at the Gfinity Arena. I think it's going to be invitational only, but nevertheless, it's going to be really good. And then on the side of ESWC, obviously this year they're putting a dedicated LAN on just for Call of Duty at the Zenith Arena. Can house about 6,000 spectators. What I think is one of the biggest stadiums that we're going to see for Call of Duty. I know COD Champs was a good couple of thousand, but I think this time it will be pretty massive. And then the French crowd are obviously amazing as well. It's a $50,000 LAN, 8-team invitational, half invitational, I guess, because obviously there's qualifiers as well. Opti Gaming Millennium got in invited to it because there was a fan vote. Then we got Denial and Revenge. They got in through, I think, winning and coming second at COD Champs, what's kind of respectable. Infused won a European LAN, I think it was in Belgium, if I'm not mistaken. And then obviously we've got still, I think, 3 more qualifiers to go in the form of Meltdown Paris, which will decide 1 spot. We've got 1 from the UK, and then we've got 1 from UK as well, Europe, sorry, as well, what's going to be online. So that's going to determine the 8 teams altogether. And then obviously they're going to compete for $50,000. And what I kind of like is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, every team that qualifies gets a slice of the prize pool, with first taking home 20,000, 8th taking home 2,000. And my question for both of you guys is, obviously it's a European event. So what's kind of the best way to structure this? Because there's been a lot of debate about, you know, it's quite a significant event with the prize pool and everything. So do you think they should be tailoring it to more select the best talent out there, you know, more North American teams, because realistically that's where the good talent is? Or do you think they should be showing more European class because it's a European event? So I'll throw it to Joel first, then iRage.
So I believe the WC is World Cup, so really we should be looking globally. Obviously bringing in Optic, smart move from a viewership point of view, and obviously they are one of the top, if not the top team in the world. And then you're gonna have Denial coming over as well, 1 COD champ. So arguably you've got the best 2 teams anyway. So it doesn't matter if we then tailor the rest of the spots more towards European talent. I think Infused made it. They got to the final of EGO, didn't I? Think they lost to Millennium, but because Millennium already had that spot, Infused didn't get to go. I like the idea of online qualifiers for one of the spots. It gives, you know, the whole of Europe a chance basically to make it. We actually, our previous COD roster are actually in the final qualifier, although they kind of split up and stopped talking to each other so I'm not even sure they're going to play that final qualifier. I think it's on like the 20th. It's kind of the same with the Orbit lineup as well. You know, LXD, Rush, Bance, and Urban. Pretty sure they made it into that final qualifier, but they've also split up. So yeah, exactly. It's a bit of a shame. I would have liked, you know, that's just 2 of the, I think, 8 teams that have made it into this qualifier.
I think it's 8.
It's sometime in April. I think it's like the 20th or something, but should be a great event. I can't see anyone other than one of the American teams, either Denial or Optic, taking the full prize. But like you said, the fact that whoever qualifies get a cut of the money is great from their point of view.
Yeah, I mean, I have to kind of echo what Joel said. I actually wrote it down on the piece of paper in front of me. ESWC, I think it stands for the Esports World Cup. So it makes sense if it's a World Cup to not just have Europeans there. So I understand the move, especially from a marketing point of view. I mean, if Optic Gaming's there, that's at least like another 10,000 viewers at least. So, you know, good call there, especially if it's like, well, I was going to say it's a Nade Shot versus Kitaga, but we'll talk about Nade Shot in a bit. RIP Nade Shot. But I wanted to talk about you talked about the spectators area and about how it's such a massive. They tweeted pictures about it, and
huge.
I've seen it, and I was just like, wow. Yeah, like, imagine that stacked. Imagine sitting in front of it, casting from my point of view, but imagine just like playing in front of it. I actually spoke to Tun. It was quite a while ago after he came back from ESWC, and he said, because the French fans are quite renowned for being very, very passionate about esports, very, very vocal, and he even said to me, "Is like, it's the most insane event he's ever been to, ESWC, and they always pack out the crowds. They always do very, very good." So I have a feeling that the crowd's going to be packed. I have a feeling it's going to be a very, very good atmosphere. So I hope that gets captured to these Americans. I hope a lot of these Americans pick up on this atmosphere and, you know, go back home, tell them about how passionate the European fans are and all that stuff, because it's only good for the growth later on. But yeah, again, it makes sense for Optic and Denial to be there. That's probably going to be the final unless these European teams kind of change around or get significantly better. Maybe the Storm roster, I don't even know how that works now. But yeah, a little bit of confusion there. I talked about Nade Shot. I'm actually going to go into him with his retirement. Again, I'm not going to talk too much about him because it's America. We're the Europeans. But one thing I do want to touch about is with him no longer streaming on MLG. Well, he will be streaming on MLG, but he's not competing. Do you feel as if, you know, that might divert some viewers, or maybe watching Nade competitively, towards the EU scene, especially some European fans? Because I know there's a lot out there who there's a lot of European fans who are heavily involved in the NA community, but know nothing about the European community. Do you feel as if this might transition a little bit? A lot of people jumping on board with Tommy streams, jumping in Market B streams, jumping in all these streamers from the UK and even like French, especially like Broken and Guitarga and so on and so forth. Do you feel as if that's going to divert some more attention towards them? Joel, I'm going to go for you first, then Tommy.
So I can't see Nadeshot sort of quitting competitive COD, bringing any more NA viewership over to the EU. They're just going to pick another one of the pro players, probably Scumpy or someone equally as popular. However, from kind of a European perspective, some of the guys over here that kind of religiously have watched Nadeshot ever since he started streaming, if they want to see some more competitive, who knows? I mean, with people like you mentioned, Tommy, I know Marky B's come back to Twitch. If the European fans would rather watch players that they may have actually met or competed against, as opposed to watching just another American pro, then maybe. But I can't really see anyone from North America deciding, now that Nadeshot's not competing, that they'll watch a European.
I kind of feel like it all boils down to the MLG versus Twitch battle, because obviously a lot of big teams over here in the UK and Europe are partnered with Twitch, therefore they can't stream on MLG. If we didn't have that and they were streaming on MLG, then you've always got the the case that they could stumble across their stream and follow them that way, because if they're likable characters, they're going to be something that fans can relate to and enjoy watching, etc. So them not being on Twitch and with all the promotion that MLG have and everything, they're not going to think twice really about European players on Twitch, whereas the majority of pro players, it be it in America, are on MLG.TV. So from that standpoint, I really don't. In terms of Nadeshot kind of reducing viewership, I don't think he's stepping too far away from competitive Call of Duty. Obviously, he's still going to be doing S&D tournaments and stuff. That's what he loves doing, etc. And it's a really smart business kind of plan, because obviously he's the co-owner of Optic Gaming. He wants them to do well and grow himself at the same time. Him stepping down from the squad means that Karma can come in, a very, very talented player, the only two-time world champion. So from that standpoint, they can do well. I don't want to drag on too much about Optic Gaming and whatnot, but from that a business perspective, I think it's a very, very good idea, and he can also grow his own brand, and then he can come back with potentially new viewers, and then they can filter back into esports. So from that standpoint, I think it's okay. I don't think it's disaster. A lot of people have always said, oh, when Nadeshot, leaves competitive, it's going to be a disaster, but I don't think it will be. He's also attending UGC Niagara, what's the LAN over in Canada, so he's not going to be stepping too far away. He'll be at events. So, but in terms of UK viewership and European viewership, I don't think it's going to have that much of an impact. I feel like with the restrictions and stuff that, with MLG.TV versus Twitch and stuff, it's not going to make a massive impact. I think for European scene to grow, we need to have that one outstanding team or something that can do well at COD Champs and do well internationally, because at the moment, we're okay when they come over to the UK and Europe. I think the last 3 Gfinities, we've had someone place in the grand final. I think we've had Epsilon or TCM. But when we go overseas, we have not had a good performance apart from TCM placing third. So we need to get teams placing well to get recognition, to get more North American followers and stuff following the EU scene. Because I think at the moment, a lot of people disregard the EU scene, saying that it's just irrelevant, I guess. It's a sad thing to say or think about, but I guess statistics kind of do back that up. So from my standpoint, I want to see teams be able to compete on North American level. But I think, TCM are doing the right thing moving over to the States. Obviously, they're practicing against NA teams, so therefore they are, getting the best competition they can get. And hopefully that can, translate into results. But yeah, I don't think Nadeshot retiring or taking a hiatus is going to actually result in more EU viewership.
It's an interesting one. I was actually going to go into a massive debate about the MLG versus Twitch, but I'm going to refrain from that, because we could be here for a good couple of hours. I know Tommy's very passionate. I know I am. I can only assume Joel would be the same as well. So I'm going to refrain from that. And one thing I'm actually going to talk about is, you mentioned we need an EU God Squad to bring in some views. The only EU God Squad I can really see being formed is Epsilon. Epsilon are kind of in that stage where they're going to be breaking up. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Talk about Storm, Vitality.Storm, however they want to be called. For those of you who don't know, Storm is a roster what Tommy's kind of conceptualized, being contracted under Vitality. I believe it's like Red Bull who owns like a fraction of Vitality. So it's got some good companies behind it. So obviously they've got a lot of financial backing and so on and so forth. What I'm sure is a massive pull factor towards this Storm roster. And talks about Epsilon maybe actually completely going over as a team. There's a lot of tweets going out as well about Josh and MyCat looking for one and so on and so forth. So just want to break that down a little bit. What's your speculation going into this Storm roster? Who do you think we could possibly see on the roster? Do you think the Epsilon team as a whole is going to go over, or do you think they're going to stay and maybe split up? I'm going to go with Joel first, then Tommy.
So for me, I'm disappointed. I really love that Epsilon lineup as it is. Their champs performance was disappointing, but I mean, everybody knows they got messed around a bit with the group of death, as it were. You still thought they were going to get out of it, and they didn't. So that's where the disappointment is. But at the same time, apart from maybe like Jerd, they are the best 4-man team Europe can possibly come up with at this moment in time. It doesn't look like Vitality or Storm and Tommy, they're going to acquire the Epsilon lineup. Just from what I'm seeing, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I know last night Tommy played with Swanee.
Yep.
And a couple of guys from Infuse, so Reedy and Marky B. I don't know if that was just because they get on really well or if there's anything behind that. But even taking Swanee, people are going to say, oh, Tommy and Swanee, they're going to build this new God squad. For me, regionals, Josh was MVP. Gfinity Open, Mad Cat was MVP. So they've left, their last two. I mean, obviously the whole squad is awesome and they all have their different roles. Swanee's the AR, Tommy does all the OBJ work, but just from performance across a LAN, Josh and Mad Cat really showed up at those last two tournaments on EU soil. So it is a shame. It looks like we're taking our God squad and splitting it. It is the way I view it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying. It's a tricky situation because I think what Tommy's being offered at Vitality is something, only a fool would turn down. He's I guess in a way being selfish because he has to think about himself to a certain aspect. He's thinking about the long run for himself. He knows he doesn't have, too many more titles in him competing or whatever. He's thinking about, making this a sustainable job. So that's why he's obviously gone down the Vitality route with obviously what you said, he's got Red Bull behind them and other assets, etc. So it is effectively breaking up, one of the best squads we see in the EU. And it's going to be tough because then you've got Mad Cat and Josh, if they do stay with Epsilon looking for two. And then if Swanee goes over with Tommy to compete under Vitality Storm, then, you are tearing that team apart, what was doing awesome. So it's going to be very interesting to see what actually happens. I don't really want to speculate too much because we none of us really know what could happen. I honestly thought that Swanee could potentially go back over to the States, but obviously with Optic Nation not choosing to pick him up and picking up, I think, Ricky and Embos again. Will he get on another roster? Because obviously he had kind of links with Optic after him being out there for the last stint. So maybe he gets out there again, but we'll have to see. I mean, I think a big factor that's going to play into this is whether or not TCM actually qualify for the season playoffs. At the moment, they're sitting on the border in the MLG COD League. I think they're like 6 and 8 or something, but there's a lot of teams around that area. So yesterday they went 2-0. They can continue winning. They can continue kind of performing, and they stay out there. Then they're going to see success. But if they don't, and they have to come back to the UK, that's going to filter in because obviously they're going to be teams are going to want to snap them up if they do end up disbanding or whatnot. So it's tough to say what's going to happen because we haven't really seen something like this happen before. It's always been kind of TCM and Epsilon up there as the top two teams. But I think it's a shame. I do, because I don't think splitting up Mad Cat and Josh and then if Swanee goes with Tommy is a good idea. But that's just my personal opinion. For all we know, they could have something in the pipeline that we don't even know about.
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm kind of just like writing down now off the top of my head the duos, so to speak, within these top teams. Because as you mentioned, Josh and MyCat, they're a little bit of a duo.
Yeah.
Tommy and Swanee, they're a little bit of a duo as well. So I really can't see maybe this team, it's pretty certain they are going to be breaking up. I mean, a lot of the tweets are suggesting that as well. So I can't really see Swanee separating from Tommy. I can't really see Josh and Micah, because I'm pretty certain for the last couple of like a good few years, Josh and Micah have always been,
a couple of years.
either on the same team, or there's been brief spells where they haven't been on the same team, but they've always wanted to team. They've always expressed desires to team. And then obviously, if for the situation Epson are looking for two with Josh and Micah, then who do they bring in? Because, you know, the smart money would be on Watson or Petey, because they play extremely well. But surely wouldn't Storm also be after Watson and Petey? So there's a lot of bit of competition between those two. I know Watson tweeted out earlier saying that him and Petey is the duo. He's not really wanting to separate. So maybe we see a team of Tommy, Swanee, Watson and Petey. But then again, who does the objective work on that team? Maybe Tommy, but again, it's a little bit of iffy.
Yeah, for me, so with that, I mean, I know from speaking with Watson that him and Petey get on really, really well. Obviously, they both played unbelievably consistently at Champs. Also did incredibly well at the Open, Watson in particular. So I know Watson is a hot property right now, and both probably Epsilon and Storm and Aware are all going to want him on their lineups. If he doesn't want to leave Petey, that's, you know, completely up to him. Would him and Swanee on the same team work? Both predominantly kind of AR players, probably, because they're both amazing. But just from a chemistry point of view, we don't know who gets on with who in their community. You know, these guys speak to each other at events. They speak to each other outside of events. Don't really know who gets on with who. Like I said, I don't want them to split up. They're all really, really good guys. It looks like they're going to. So Watson's a smart pickup. Petey is a smart pickup. Then you got to look at teams like Exertus that place really well, and Infuse. They've got some talented players like Marky B and Reedy, I've already mentioned. I put on my Twitter the other day how well Rated played over the weekend for Exertus. You know, there was one game. He's one of the only players I know that can drop sort of 39 or 40 kills and still go negative. Like he's involved in every gunfight in a map, it seems. Like he just puts himself about, but very aggressive, very good player. It's going to be really interesting. It's weird for us to have this kind of roster mania in the EU. It seems we're modelling ourselves on the North Americans a little bit too much in that respect at the minute. I hope it gets sorted quickly. But yeah, I'm disappointed because I like the Epsilon lineup. They're really nice guys to talk to. They're incredible players. I would have liked for them to have stayed together. Yeah,
I mean, you kind of touched on that whole last night. Marky B, Tommy, Swanee, and Reedy was playing together. A lot of people was tweeting out like, you know, Intel, this is the new Storm roster. I know Tommy was kind of winding people up a little bit, saying yes, it is the Storm roster, and then it was like, are you serious? Like, no. But it was kind of playing around a little bit. But from what I can remember, from my quite extensive memory of esports, I don't think Marky B and Tommy have ever teamed with each other at LAN. I actually quickly went and consulted the archives because I've got this massive spreadsheet, and I couldn't really see them together. I might have missed something in my hurry because obviously I didn't want to be like zoned out, but I'm pretty certain Marky B and Tommy hasn't really teamed together. So seeing them together, it's a little bit interesting. You would have thought both of them being around the community for a long time, they would have teamed together before. So unless there's, you know, something going on behind the scenes, like I said, Joe, I mean, a lot of the time we don't know what's going on, especially that whole like Reedy and Rated situation. I mean, no one had any clue that, you know, they had some beef or whatever. So you keep it kind of like behind closed doors, so you don't know who likes each other and who doesn't like each other. I mean, I think my cat and Marky B doesn't really get on each other after the whole TCM thing last year, but that was a thing. Yeah, so there's a lot of like rivalries and a lot of players like saying, oh, I'm not going to team with this player again. And a lot of really complicated rivalries and connections. You know, some players want to team this player but don't want to team that player. As you said, Rated was another really good player on that Exertus lineup who I really feel as if turned a lot of heads, as you said, because he has been playing very well. Obviously, formerly on Millennium, they didn't quite make it to Champs, so I feel as if they might have quite a bit of attention on them, especially Rated. Yeah, do you have anything else to add to that, Tommy?
Not really. I think you pretty much summed it up quite well, if I'm being honest. It's going to be interesting because over the next couple of weeks, I'll expect everything to be announced. Obviously, we have kind of a little bit of downtime before the likes of ESWC and the next Gfinity Open. I think we've got ESWC and Gfinity Spring Masters back to back. So, yeah, not really much to add to it. I just want to kind of see what they actually do, because I'm at the moment not looking forward to it, because I don't think it's good that like some are splitting up. But we'll see what happens. They could come together, some players that don't like each other, and as you say, some players don't really get along with each other, but hopefully the outcome is good. But at the moment it doesn't look like it will be.
Yeah, I have to agree. Guys, you know what? I think Joel's got something better to do. Tommy's got something better to do. So we're actually going to end it here because, we have been rambling on for ages. I need to sort out this team mess down here. So as per usual, how we end the show, Joel, obviously you're familiar with this now. We have a minute to 2 minute. You could probably go on a hiatus and, tell us how you got married. Well, tell you how you got engaged to your fiance, like because apparently that was a thing what he did in his outro where he went on for hours and hours about it.
Dear.
He has quite a lot of stories, so you can tell the story if you want. You can just go for a minute if you want. Outro, affiliations in the community, any shouts you have to make. We'll go for Joel, then we'll go for Tommy, and then I'll close off the show. Here's you go.
So shout out to Warren, Brycey, and their staff at Gfinity for an incredible event at the weekend. Really, really well, really nice to deal with. Production was on point, and I found it a very enjoyable experience. Shout out to all the staff and players from XL and all of our supporters that we gained kind of over the weekend, that just given us really good feedback from that event. Really appreciate it. Shout out to Zip Buddy and Alibi, two of our sponsors who gave us kind of really high levels of support for the LAN. And shout out to Tommy for his kind words on Twitter last night about our organisation.
You Tommy.
I've got to say, he did a bit of a marketing stunt for us, and that was very kind. So thank you. But yeah, major thanks just to the players and staff and fans from XL Esports.
I just want to say thank you to Joel for yourself for coming on for the second time for the STiKS EU. You did come on short notice. We were originally going to have someone else, but that kind of fell through. So thank you for coming on short notice and helping us out. Big thank you to, as always, for Rage for putting up with me and making sure the show goes along pretty steadily, and more importantly to Goalie, who obviously sits behind kind of is the voice of the show and doesn't get enough recognition. So, but that's pretty much it. We'll see you next week, same time as always.
Again, just to echo what you said, Joel, massive thanks for you. Obviously, it was very, very short notice. I was like, we need someone who's going to be here, Joel. And then as usual did it. So everyone go check his Twitter. I'll leave it in the chat later on after I finished having a ramble. But as I said just after the break, go check out the STiKS apparel. Go check them out, especially now it's summer coming up in the UK and in Europe. So you want to be repping some fresh clothes, get in the eyes of some people, and be impressing some people. Check down below where you got some codes. You got, I think it's STiKS for 5% off this Scuff Kit Gaming. Well, it's pretty good. 5% off a Scuff controller, not bad. And then you got Kingdom for 10% off your G Fuel. G Fuel, again, every pro player uses it, and there's a reason why, because it's so good. And I've been Alex, also known as iRage, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.